Okay, let us continue our discussion. This is part 2 of our lecture discussion. And the second factor of the changing landscape of education is the framework for 21st century learning. Ano kaya itong framework for century learning na ito? For 21st century learning na ito? This is actually a unified vision for learning to ensure student success in a world where change is constant and learning never stops. So basically, this is a structure by which the teaching and learning processes is actually anchored on to ensure that the students will become successful sa panahon ngayon in which change is always constant and that learning is a lifelong process. Learning never stops. And kaya dapat itong framework for 21st century learning is actually giving power to the students for them to become successful in this time and age by providing them with the necessary skills and abilities or training so that they could really be able to thrive, not only to become successful but to thrive. Kumbaga sa puno, hindi lang yung lumaki ang puno or yumabong. Ang usapan kasi ngayon is yung mamumunga yung puno. Parang students, you people should be like trees, fruit-bearing trees. You don't only be successful by merely expanding your twigs, having luscious greens, etc. The essential part is for you to be able to bear fruits. Okay? Part nitong framework na to are the following. You will be given the life and career skills, learning and innovation skills, which are composed of the 4 C's: the critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. Those are very, very essential. And then information, media, and technology skills. Doon naka-anchor yung mga iba't ibang mga lessons and activities na dapat maging intentional na i-develop sa inyo yung mga nabanggit kong mga skills, because those skills are the prerequisite skills that you need to demonstrate and that you need to practice so that it would give you possibilities of becoming successful in a world that keeps on changing. Okay? Sa ngayon, hindi lang kasi enough na nakapagtapos ka ng pag-aaral, kasi madami namang mga nakapagtapos ng pag-aaral na walang trabaho. Siguro isa yun, kailangan nakapagtapos ka ng pag-aaral. Pero higit sa lahat, kailangan may ma-develop kang attribute, may ma-develop kang competence, may ma-develop kang skill skills na requirement na kinakailangang meron ka para mas maging effective ka in navigating the complexities of our time today. Lamang lagi yung may alam. Lamang lagi yung may additional attributes. Okay, let's put that into context. Halimbawa, nag-graduate kayo. Say for example, student A, B, C, D. They all graduated with a degree of Bachelor of Physical Education. They all passed the LET. Pero si student B, meron siyang NC certificate. And then meron din siyang civil service exam eligibility. Tapos, bukod doon, meron pa siyang other skills. Oh, definitely, si student B, si applicant B, will be more marketable, will be more employable. He or she will be more attractive sa mga employers compared doon sa tatlo. There's no question. The 4 students or applicants that I told you are all qualified. Pero umangat yung si applicant B because madami siya mga add-ons. Yun. So, learn more. If there are possibilities that is presenting you, that is being presented in you to learn more. Kasi when you get to learn more, you develop more abilities. You will become more effective, I think. Or that you will have an edge to other people around. Okay, so that is the framework of the 21st century learning. Next is the ASEAN Community 2015. Kanina, I did told you about the Asian Qualification Framework. Itong Asian Qualification Framework at itong ASEAN 2015 na tinatawag, ang pinaka-intention ng ASEAN 2015 is to make Southeast Asia borderless in terms of employment possibilities. Put that into context. Halimbawa, ako, graduate ako sa Philippines. Gusto ko magturo kasi teacher ed ang graduatean ko. Gusto ko magturo sa Thailand. Dati, it would be very, very hard for me to teach in Thailand kasi wala pang ASEAN 2015 noon. So, kadami-daming mga requirements. Ngayon, medyo paunti-unti ginagawang standardize yung requirement. What is required in the Philippines is also required in other ASEAN countries. Meaning, since borderless na siya, anyone from Myanmar, from Singapore, can go to the Philippines, can go to SSC, Sorsogon State College, to apply for a teaching job. In the same manner, anyone from Sorsogon can go somewhere in Singapore to apply for a job na hindi na ganun katindi yung requirements. Okay, that's the main idea of ASEAN 2015. So, paano naman niya binago yung landscape ng ating education? Siyempre, ang pinaka-implication niyan is kung gusto natin makapagsabayan dito sa ating mga kapitbahay sa ASEAN countries, kinakailangan yung ating mga competencies, ang ating mga abilities should be at par with them. Magka-level dapat. Kung hindi man dapat magka-level, dapat tataasan pa natin ang ating mga qualifications so that by the time na mag-a-apply tayo ng trabaho, tapos meron tayong mga kasama nag-apply din ng trabaho from other countries, then hindi naman tayo mapag-iiwanan. That is That is ASEAN 2015 and how it affects the landscape of our education. Okay? Ngayon nga, uso na ngayon yung mga student exchange program. So, dati we are just limited to the Philippines. Now, internalization na, gaya dito. The next factor is internalization of higher education and global mobility. Hindi na lang enough ngayon na magaling ka sa Pilipinas. Dapat magaling ka din pag kinumpare ka dito sa ating Southeast Asian neighbors at sa ibang countries. Kaya nga, di ba, meron tayong tinatawag na QS ranking o yung Qualification Standards ranking, in which in the Philippines, meron tayong 3 universities who were able to, battle neck and neck with other big universities in US and in Europe. In fact, our very own University of the Philippines has been making a lot of progress and accomplishment. Kasi nasa 50 to 150 ang kanyang ranking. Before, nasa 300, 400. Ganun na katindi yung UP ngayon. So that is what is meant by internalization of higher education and global mobility. Because of the trend of globalization, somehow our products in Sorsogon has to be competitive pagka siya ay ni-level sa ibang mga produkto sa ibang countries. That is what is meant by internalization of higher education. Sorsogon State College should link to other universities in other countries. Why? Because there is a need to partner and to collaborate and to learn from each other. And in doing so, we become better and we progress. Okay? Next is the Industry 4.0. Itong Industry 4.0 is none other than the idea of integrating modern technologies into the system of our learning. Saktong-sakto with our situation right now. So yung Industry 4.0 is basically capacitating ourselves or capacitating our schools to be able to adapt to the situations just like what we have at the moment. Okay? Kasi the idea is technology gives or open doors for possibilities. Yun ang ibig sabihin nito. So, if bukas ang isip natin sa mga bagong teknolohiya at ginagamit natin yung teknolohiya, mas mapapadali ang ating pag-ooperate ng ating mga sistema because tutulungan tayo ng technology kung paano papadaliin ang ating mga sistema. Kasi nga progressive tayo hindi tayo regressive. So, the more that we are familiar with technologies, the better for us. And our situation now is a validation to that. If you are an old teacher and hindi ka naman talaga digital native, ibig sabihin ng digital native is that you breathe technology, parang nabuhay ka sa ganitong technologies, kaya easier sa iyo ang pag-manipulate ng laptop, easier sa iyo mag-manipulate ng mga applications, etc. Because you were born on this part of time, okay? Pero doon sa mga 60 years old na, so basically they don't know how to operate this kind of applications, this kind of gadgets, etc. And so they are fearful. Because of that, magre-retire na lang sila. Okay? Kaya important yung integration of technology to whatever we do. Okay? because technology is amazing. Okay? And then last that I actually added is pandemic. This is obviously contributed so much in the changing landscape of our education. And mag-anniversary na bukas for our lockdown. And yet we are not seeing bright prospect at the moment. Medyo, medyo hindi satisfactory ang response ng ating government with this pandemic. And so, just like all other countries in the world, everything has been disrupted. Okay? And everything has been impacted, most specifically education or the teaching and learning processes. Okay? Nakakasad lang kasi there are many things that you could learn more if it's kinda face-to-face instruction, because there are dynamics that is not present with this type of setup, like what I am doing right now. I am less motivated by doing this because it's not, I don't get any response, or I don't have that kind of dynamic in which I could see your body languages, I could see how you see me, how you listen intently to what I am saying. It's important for me, at least, because those are my cues whether you are getting it or not. Wala yan sa ganitong style, sa ganitong setup. So, kinda, it bores me. Pero if it's face-to-face, you could see me differently. The actual spontaneous teaching that I used to love would be there, right in front of your faces, right in front of your eyes. Having said that, we need to adapt to our situation. That's why I am trying my best to give you something out of the situation. Okay, so these are the factors that keeps on changing the landscape of our education system. Okay, and the the main idea is how effective are we in adapting to these factors, to this changing landscape. The more we are perceptive and adaptive, the more we could get through to the challenges that we're facing. Okay? Sabi nga natin, it's not the fittest who survive the most. It's those who can adapt, can really survive the most. Okay? Kasi kung ang labanan ay yung pinakamalakas, si dapat si mga dinosaur nandito pa, alive pa ngayon. Okay? So definitely it's the attribute of being adaptable is a key to survival. So this is a situation we have to adapt because this is what is being asked us to do. Okay? Otherwise, we quit. And we would not allow ourselves to quit, right? So let us continue. For the purpose of enumerating the different education reforms that we have in our country, here are the list. First is the implementation of the K-12, the issuance of the new general education curriculum, the institutionalization of the Philippine Qualifications Framework, and the ASEAN Qualification Reference Framework, and then the paradigm shift from outcomes-based education to learner-centered approach, And then we have the need for higher education to achieve global comparability and respond to the challenges of ASEAN integration. Next is the Republic Act number 10647, which is the Ladderized Education Act of 2014. This is for your technical vocational training in TESDA. And then we also have the Republic Act 10650, or the Open Distance Learning Act. This is an act or batas which expands access to educational services by institutionalizing open distance learning in levels of tertiary education and thus appropriating funds. So let us get to the nitty-gritty of our discussion. Let us formally start talking about the K to 12. So K to 12, let us talk about how it envisioned itself. Here is the vision for the K to 12 curriculum. Sabi, the graduates daw of the K to 12 basic education curriculum will, number one, or bullet number one, acquire mastery of basic competencies. What are these basic competencies? The three R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. Being able to read, write, and count. Dapat daw master yon. Dapat functional yung mastery. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng functional mastery or functional understanding of the basic competencies? Well, marunong kang magbasa. Yes, nababasa mo, pero dapat may comprehension. Okay? You are able to count with comprehension dapat din. Okay? Kasi kung alam mong gawin yon, hindi ka maluloko, number one. Hindi ka mawawala kasi marunong kang magbasa at magkita ng mga directions, etc. Okay? And then we have the K-12 graduates should be more emotionally mature. Okay? Be socially aware, proactive, and involved in public and civic affairs. Okay? Dapat yung mga graduates ng K-12 ay marunong makialam sa gobyerno, sa affairs of the government. So if you are posting something in the social media, whether you are pro or against what the government is doing, that's a good indication that you are becoming socially aware and that you are involving yourselves in public and civil affairs. Like you have to vote. Dapat nagpa-participate ka sa elections. That is one of your civic duties. Dapat a graduate ay nakakapag-volunteer sa mga community works, etc. Yun. And dapat meron ka palaging say kung ano nangyayari sa ating bansa. Right now, we have the issue of pandemic and then the issue of extrajudicial killing and then the issue of drugs, etc. What is your stand? What is your take? Dapat meron, hindi ka dapat passive, hindi ka dapat pessimistic. Dapat you have to make your voice heard. That is what K-12 is expecting. Na pag nag-graduate ka ng grade 12, dapat you can demonstrate this kind of competencies. Next is be adequately prepared for the world of work or entrepreneurship or higher education. So, pag graduate ka daw ng K-12, dapat medyo employable, ready ka na to work. Okay? Or that you are ready for higher education. Kaya nga, diba, sa senior high school, you are being provided with courses or tracks like Techbook, ABM, and etc. At yung mga tracks na yon, meron siyang mga specific na mga attributes na idinidevelop sa inyo that would be a requirement when you apply for a job. Okay, next, be legally employable with potential for better earnings. And then, of course, you have to be globally competitive. So, we are zooming in. So, parang ang atake natin is funnel. Do you know what a funnel is? Para siyang imbodo. We started from a larger, broader scope, and then we zoomed in and up to here. So, we now have to look into physical education as it relates to the K-12 basic education program. So kanina, we already learned about the vision of the K-12 curriculum. How about the physical education curriculum? Okay, these are the some of the objectives for this particular part of the discussion. Number one is that you have to share ideas about what an ideal curriculum framework is in teaching PE and health, and that you could explain the implications and importance of having a curriculum framework for PE and health, and that you could also share ideas regarding the essence of having a curriculum framework as a basis of one's teaching. So let's begin first with what are the bases of physical education in school. I did talk to you about this lengthily in our previous episode, but for the purpose of you mastering it, I will have to give it again. Remember this, Article 14, Section 19 of the Philippine Constitution. Your task, ladies and gentlemen, is to memorize this particular provision of the Philippine Constitution because this is the legal mandate of physical education in schools. Bakit merong PE sa schools? Because of this provision. Sabi dito, the state shall promote physical education and encourage sports programs, league competitions, and amateur sports, including training for international competitions, to foster self-discipline, teamwork, and excellence for the development of a healthy and alert citizenry. All educational institutions shall undertake regular sports activities throughout the country in cooperation with athletic clubs and other sectors. That's number one, the most um, legal mandate that we have, because this is Philippine Constitution, 1987 Philippine Consti. Second is coming from the International Charter of Physical Education and Sports. Again, I am tasking all of you to memorize this. Sabi ni ICPES, the practice of physical education and sports is a fundamental right for all and forms an essential element of the educational system. So, when you engage in physical education and sports, whatever sports you are engaging yourself with, it is actually part of your fundamental right. Karapatang pantao mo ang pag-i-ehersisyo at kung ano pa mga physical activities ang gusto mong gawin. It's part of your fundamental human right for obvious reason. Okay? Our right to life, our right to all other civil liberties, may enjoy lang natin lahat ng mga rights ng yon if we can ensure that we are healthy. Okay? Because health, ladies and gentlemen, is the foundation of life. Okay? If a person is healthy, he can be assured of a long life. If a person is healthy, he or she can enjoy all other liberties and rights she or he has. Okay? So let your child play. Next, this is now the program rationale of the physical education. First, physical education is a core subject in the curriculum. Second, physical activities are essential to the health and development of all individuals. Third, physical education as an inclusive and developmentally appropriate program of physical activities. Fourth, physical education is aimed at building competencies for supporting confident, enjoyable, and sustainable participation in physical activities. And physical activity participation through structured PE during, before, during, and after school programs. Here are the program outcomes. Disciplinal knowledge. When we say disciplinal knowledge, it refers to your expertise in terms of the physical education as a body of science. Okay? And then movement competency and proficiency. Movement competency and proficiency has something to do with how effective and how proficient or competent you are in your movement, whatever movement that you do. How competent is your movement? For example, when you walk, are you walking properly? When you run, are you running properly? When you get something from the floor, is your movement competent in getting that something in the floor? Because um, sometimes or most of the times, accident do happens when there is a very quick movement competencies. Okay? Lapitin ka sa disgrasya at lapitin ka sa sakit pagka ikaw ay wala or mahina ang iyong movement competencies. Next is curriculum planning, implementation, and evaluation. Curriculum planning, implementation, and evaluation has something to do with if you are a teacher, you need to, of course, have a competent, or you must have an ability on how are you going to teach a particular subject to a particular student, and it would involve planning. What should you give to your student? Okay, that is basically lesson planning. Okay, or if you're done with your lesson planning, you must know how to execute it. So that is probably your methods or strategies in teaching. And after you teach, you must have a way to assess or evaluate whether your students learn or whether your methods has worked. Next is professional accountability and responsibility. Ito man has something to do with the teacher as the professional is accountable and responsible to the student's learning in his subject and to the student's safety in his subject. And then we also have communication as a program outcomes. Of course, when we talk about communication, it has something to do with articulation, your ability to make yourself understood by other people around. Pagdating naman sa graduate outcomes, these are the expectations. Physical education teachers in basic education, okay, have to become leaders of physical activity programs, like pwedeng interscholastic sports, intramural sports, or pwedeng physical activity based clubs like sports and dance group or dance troupe, etc. Okay, so I will have to end my discussion there. Okay? I hope that everyone have had been able to learn something for today. And the task that I gave you was that you need to memorize the different legal basis of physical education. Okay, and then later on I will be posting something for you to do. Okay?